Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now it's time for your weekend tech tip, brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
In this week's Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week, I want to talk about brining herring, and I want to kind of dummy it down. There's a lot of ways that you can brine herring, and there's a lot of different opinions and different ways just to do it, right? You can go on YouTube and different sources and find 1,000 different videos on how you can cure herring. So find something ultimately that works good for you. Now, to dummy it all the way down, just to make it as simple as possible, done. I mean, really. You're done. I mean, you can overthink this as much as you want, but if you just go right to the ProCure Brine and Bright Complete, there's all kinds of versions out there. I only use these three, the Chartreuse, the Brilliant Blue, and then, which I would say that I 99% when I do dye my baits is in the Chartreuse color. But then, of course, the natural, right? Just the basic, just all the ingredients, the bite stimulants and chrome bait, which arguably is as good or better than anything out there that you're going to use. This is literally just as simple as getting your bait, thawing it out and taking care of it correctly, which we'll get to, a quart-sized jar, fill it up to about where the L's are on the ball jar, at least that's what I've always used as a gauge, and put your bait in and go. Honestly, it's just that simple. Now, again, you can make it as hard as you want, right? But we're going to get to where I like to start when I'm talking about a basic brine. But let's talk about a couple of other things that you can use. Another one that's super, super popular, and we can use that Kershaw Tech Cam if we can, is the ProCure Brine and Bright. This is the powdered version, all right? This is one that you just pour in. This will do 2 quarts. When I use this, it's just, I pour roughly half of it into a quart jar, and go. Shake it up, let it dissolve, and then from there you can add different things. So yes, we're going to talk about rock salt, we're going to talk about table salt as well. So this is also just another dummy-proof version or way to cure your herring. You can change things up though. Now here's how you can change them up. Now in this, you have bite stimulants, Monster Bite, different additives in there to convince the fish to bite when they may not want to, right? And that's important to have something that's going to be different than maybe everybody else, but also appeals to the salmon so they don't refuse your bait. Now, obviously, sometimes that's going to just happen. It's just the way it works out. So there's a couple of different versions that are very easy. Just pour them right in and go. Now, before we start talking about the herring itself, let's show you what I like to do, okay? Now, this was shown to me, and I hate to say it this way, but I'm gonna because it's true, by possibly one of the best salmon fishermen that I've met over the years. Really, really good at it, and all it is Morton's table salt, non-iodized, right into a jar. And here's the important part about if you're gonna do what I'm doing here, is that you don't use too much salt, because you can certainly overdo it to where your baits will shrivel up when you're just using straight salt, okay? And we're gonna change this up a little bit. This isn't gonna be my only thing in here, but it's certainly a very good cure. Brine all by itself is just Morton's table salt. And I'm trying to get that perfect level where I know, and that's it, right about here. And if we get that side shot, you can see that it's just not very much. A little more, well, let's go right to that top line, which I've used that in the past. It's important that you do get it close. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to be consistent with the amount of Morton's that you're putting in there. And you can use whatever salt, I guess, you want, but just make sure it's non-iodized. If it's iodized, it will soften the bait up. And at least in my experience, it certainly is not an advantage. From there, all I'm taking here is, this is distilled water, right off the shelf at Freddy's probably. In a perfect world, you're gonna use river water. Now, a lot of times when I'm out fishing, I'll take extra jars with me and I will just fill them and take them home. But remember that river water is deteriorable, meaning that it will go bad. Believe it or not, there's enough biomass, there's enough stuff in river water where it will go bad all by itself. So it's not something that you're gonna wanna keep around or in the jar with your baits for a long period of time, because you'll find that they'll soften up and there'll be a kind of an interesting smell. It's true, but it's also, I would say, the best water to use if you can. But non-iodized salt and distilled water works fine, but I would prefer to have river water. All right, so from there, that's just salt water, right? That's my base, easy as that. I don't go too crazy with it. Now, let's start looking at some of the crazy stuff. You can start adding tuna. One of my favorites is also krill. But you do have to use quite a bit of it if you add it in there. And believe it or not, you're going to get a very good scent off of it. And there are times where something added to your herring will be the hot bait, right? And if you can, it's a great idea to have 2 or 3 different flavors of herring with you when you head out. Now, along with adding different scents, like again, tuna or krill, or even some of the other options that are out there, is bite stimulants. And that's what I'm going to be putting in right now. You can either use slamola, or my personal favorite, if I'm going to start adding different things to my cure, my brine, is Monster Bite. And less is more. Again, in my opinion, when you're talking about this additive, it does dissolve very nicely, and it does penetrate the baits very, very well. But don't go crazy with it. You don't want to overdo it because there are some sulfites in there. You certainly don't want to ultimately, you know, just go overboard, right? Here's another little trick I'm going to give you as well. One, remember that oil is not water soluble, okay? It goes right to the surface and floats and doesn't penetrate your baits. So if you use oil products, that's generally something that you're going to do after the fact. We're going to get to that in a second. But this is not. This is the ProCure Bait Bright Concentrate. All this does is just help your baits get brighter. So along with the Monster Bite, I always add in a little bit of the concentrate, and it's really just a bluing, right? If you take a look at that when it gets in there, and you know, you could go a little overboard. I want to know that it's on there, and it does make a difference with your baits just being shiny. Because again, this week, the water is going to be relatively low and clear. So I'm not looking for anything other than flash. I just want the baits to stand out. Now you can of course add scent. Jesus, that hurts. Sorry. You can easily add the chartreuse or the blue if you wish to, even in clear water. Absolutely. Will it get bit? 100%. It's just personal preference. In this situation, I just want a chrome bait. Maybe I should back up a second here before we cut away. My preferred bait is fresh out of the package, right? If I can do it and if it works out and the timing of it being thawed is right, right out of the package is my favorite. If you can't do that and you like brining them right off the bat, absolutely. It toughens them up, holds the scales on. They're going to last a little longer. So there's advantages to it. Myself, I don't care if I burn bait. I honestly don't. I will go through as much bait as I have to be confident. But when we come back, I want to talk about a couple of other different things that you can do to make your baits a little different, or at the very least, maybe just make you a little bit more confident with them when you're fishing. We'll be right back.